Welcome to Penzik. Almost the end of the event, and we're finally getting to show you a proper getting dressed video. Today, we are going to be dressing my condottiero like a 15th century Italian knight, as he normally dresses every day. And so I thought this was a great opportunity to show you all the steps of a man getting dressed in the Middle Ages, in the late Middle Ages, 15th century, from the skin out. So we actually know about the getting dressed process, at least in England from this era, thanks to the Book of Caring by John Russell, which was written roughly in 1461. And so we're going to be following that process. Unfortunately, I was not clever enough to bring that book with me across the great ocean on my journeys here. So I don't have it, and so I can't read it to you as we go through the process, but I will paraphrase what we're doing and I will explain, and you can ask questions as you wish. Yeah, so let me just make sure I can see you all in the, where's the chat? Did I?
All messages.
Oh, right.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, great. So first off, let me know if you can hear me or not. And I will be keeping my eye on you all so that if you have questions, I can answer them. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, this is our pavilion. Yeah, welcome. It's quite a lovely space. And we are here in Western Pennsylvania, and it is actually not a bad morning. It's actually not a morning anymore. It's not a bad early afternoon. Yes, you can hear me. Fantastic. Good. Hello, Susan. Hello, Lori. Lovely to see you both this morning. So we're starting off with our condottiero already wearing mudande, as they would be called in Italian. They would be called bre in French, or they would be called breeches or brecche in 15th century Italian. Brecche. Brecche in 15th century English, sorry. Now, these are breeches styles, and these are definitely of a lower class version of breeches than a man of his status should be wearing in the 1470s to 1480s in Italy. I'm going to show you the actual pair he should be wearing. These are actual reproduction mudande in the 15th century man's style. And because we don't want to be demonetized and have my channel deleted, we're going with the more modest peasanty version for this getting dressed. So hence the difference, just to make it clear, this is what he should be wearing. But again, yeah, we have certain limitations about what we can do here. These are made of linen. They have a drawstring that allows them to be fitted into the body, into the waist, into the hips, and they actually have a little access pouch for the necessaries, shall we say. They're quite comfortable. They're made of linen, and I made them myself. They're all hand sewn. This is what they look like inside out if you want to see what that looks like, how the construction goes. And yes, it's a little pouchy, but it's not massively pouchy. But yeah, if you ever look at 15th century depictions of men wearing these mudande, you'll notice that they don't exactly keep everything completely in place, and we didn't want an accident happening here. Okay, so questions about the mudande, just let me know. Moving on to the next layer, the camicia. Now this camicia is made of linen. And that seems to be the most common fabric. Sometimes we have records of them being made of hemp, sometimes cotton linen, what would be called fustian in the language of the area. And fustian, fun tip, or fun fact, the word fustian comes from the city in Egypt where fustian was most commonly made, fustat, hence fustian. So yeah, in the 15th century, fustian was still being imported from Egypt. So it goes on just simple over the head, and you'll see it has a gore in the front. Some of you were asking about this gore because I'm making a new one, and that allows this collar to come and sit up here around his neck, and then it protects his garments from the vicissitudes of his neck. Now, some mistakes I made if you want to make one of these, some of the mistakes I made, this is too far away from his neck. So you actually want this line to go all the way up to his neck. So actually it should go all the way to here and then the stick up part. But also I made it integral like this as part of the shirt. And on the new one I'm making all of this as an additional band, an actual separate collar, so that, and the separate collar goes all the way across the gore as well, so that it actually provides structure to sit more neatly around the neck, so that even when he puts his arms down, it doesn't pull away like that. So lessons learned when I made this 13 years ago. This shirt is 13 years old, in case you're wondering. Question. Yes, welcome to the 15th century. Enjoy. Can you both do together? Yeah, right. Oh, I see. I needed to, we forgot to set the chat to,
yes.
yeah, mine was only, okay. So the next step, oh wait, something else about the construction of this shirt. There is a gore in the armpit, right? And this allows flexibility. Also, this is a part that wears out pretty quickly. So you just replace just this little gore and you don't have to replace the entire shirt, which is fantastic. Okay, so next we have the Hosen, right? And these are joined Hosen. By the end of the 15th century, Hosen are basically being worn joined by everyone. The little ice age is coming on and it's getting colder. But right up until the 1480s in the Italies, men are still wearing Hosen that are not joined because their overgarments cover their groin and their buttocks. So it doesn't matter that you could see their mudande through the split in their Hosen. But honestly, split Hosen are super convenient in so many ways because, as you can see, these have been torn a lot by athletic feats that were perhaps not meant to be done in the 15th century. So if they're split, then they can't rip. Now, these are made of a kind of wool called perpignan, and it actually has a natural stretch to it, which is fantastic because it actually molds the legs much better than, say, a bias cut would, and certainly better than a grain cut would. And this gives you that kind of painted on effect. Now, unfortunately, these have been worn pretty regularly for the last 10 days. And so they have now stretched out. And so they're not quite as painted on as they once were, which you'll see in a moment.
They're a little poofy about the bum.
They're a little poofy about the bum. Yeah. So we're about to show you how this goes on. So in the book of Caring, John Russell's book of Caring from 1461, the process of a man getting dressed with his valet. Today, I stand in the role of the manservant. We don't have a manservant currently who could actually do all of this, who's trained in the ways of these garments. So normally, the first step would be the shirt, which we've done, the breeches, which we've done, and then the hosen, and then the doublet, the farsetto in this case.
Other thing before I put these.
Oh yes, sockes. So in the 1561 book of Caring, they actually talk about that the sockes, the socks go on. That socks go on. He's wearing these are perfectly authentic socks. Don't look too closely. Socks go on. We actually don't know what these socks would have been made of. We don't know if the socks are knit because we don't really have evidence of knit socks really from Italy or England or France in the 1480s. If you have evidence of knit socks, I mean primary source, not I read about it somewhere, like primary source evidence of knit socks in England, France, or Italy in the 15th century, let me know. There are null-bound socks that have been found from the 15th century in Sweden, but I've never found evidence of that below that latitude. So always interesting to find more solid evidence of that. So they should wear socks and then hosen. And what we figured out is that I actually started doing that naturally. We'd already been wearing socks under our stockings, under our hosen, because it preserves the hosen, and then the socks get washed and the hosen don't have to be washed as often. And it turns out, according to the Book of Caring, that is exactly the authentic thing to do. And in the inventories from the 15th century, from 15th century Italy, there's lots of mention of socks, which are different from hosen, and that the men had lots of them. Lorenzo de' Medici had multiple pairs of hosen, I mean dozens upon dozens, literally, and also dozens upon dozens of pairs of socks. And so it's very clear they're supposed to be worn together. The socks inside of the hosen, therefore keeping the hosen fresher, the feet of the hosen especially fresher, longer. So let's talk about a couple of the other construction things here. Now, in the 15th century, in the second half of the 15th century in Italy especially, hosen are getting very fitted. And even though some of the fabrics like this perpignan have a natural elasticity to them because of the weave, they still, around the ankles, if you want to have a really fitted ankle, you can't just sew it up. So you actually see buttons and lacing in the back of hosen if you look closely sometimes in the imagery. And so I have installed lacing in the back of these hosen from about just below the calf to the ankle so that it can be nice and tightly fitted. Okay, question. Contessa, later, can you post in Discord the type of wool and the source? Yes, I can, absolutely. Okay. Do you guys use silk? Wasn't it a precious commodity in the 15th century? Silk for hosen? No. I have not found any evidence of silk hosen in Florence, in England, in France, in this era. I have just not found it. Not at least civilian. So he's now going to put on his hosen. And as you watch him struggle to put on his hosen, I'm going to answer the questions. Wool seems to have been the fabric of choice. There is some evidence of linen, but not much. Not much. Yeah. Moving back. I didn't Laurie, I didn't know they still made that type of wool. I didn't either. I just stumbled across it. And it's pretty close to Perpignan anyway. Street, this is not just getting dressed, it's also education and explanations about everything. So if that's not what you want, then this is probably not the channel for you. Yeah. Would you interface the collar to help it stand? Cornelia question. Yeah, so the collar is going to be lined. Yeah, exactly. So the collar that I have for the next one is going to be doubled, basically. It'll be doubled. So it will help it stand and also help it not wear out as quickly. And also so that the dirt, the grime that might come from the neck doesn't come through to the front as much, to the part that's actually visible. Yes, I am absolutely lining the collar in itself, basically, self-lining. Yep. Yeah, we are talking 1480, 1470 to 1480, basically, at this point. 1460 to 1480. Yes, okay. Good morning from Australia. Wow, hello, good afternoon. Good morning from Australia. We have someone watching from Australia. Thank you for joining. Good morning. What time is it? Oh my, it's good morning from Australia. Wow. Yeah, good afternoon from Western Pennsylvania. Yeah. So because we haven't put points on this lace, because we need to do that and we haven't, we're using a bodkin to apply the lace. And this bodkin is a replica of an original that you actually see in portraits. This is what he's using to attach the lace. And I will show you what the laces look like. And this lace actually has a point. Maybe we should have used this one. So the laces he's using are finger loop braided. They're laces in the 15th century, meaning of the word laces, maybe not like you know them, but shoelaces are laces too. And so they'll be pointed with a chape like this. And chapes, this metal chape, it is actually it's built directly onto the lace. You do not make them separately and then attach them. You actually form the metal right around the lace after the lace is made so that it fits perfectly. Pointers, the name pointer, if you have the name pointer, that was your job in the Middle Ages. Someone actually made points, they put points on these laces, and so they were called a pointer. So John Pointer was a common name in 14th and 15th century England. And so these are the kind of laces that he has in his garments. It's finger loop braided. This is a 5-loop braid, and this is silk. Silk laces are highly attested not only in the archaeological record, but in the expense accounts and inventories. You can actually find evidence of them even in the Italian ones. So Italy, France, England, all using silk points. Germany, what is now modern day Germany as well. But what he was using was an attachable point, a bodkin in English, that was attaching. You just slip the lace onto it and then it goes easily through the holes. So he's now put his hose up and he's attaching a triangle in the front that is called later, but not in this era, the codpiece. I have not found a word for it actually in 15th century English because it's just kind of a new thing, because hosen have just recently been worn joined, and more specifically, the garments have gotten short enough that you can actually see a man's hips and butt and groin, and so now there needs to be something to cover his mudande, his linen breeches. Brecca in 15th century English. Yep. Laurie says, will you be attending a class to learn how to make points at Pennsic? There is no class this year, Laurie. Last year there was a class on point making. There isn't this year. I'm so disappointed.
I looked. I really wanted to go to that one.
But it's a much smaller event this year, and you're all going to laugh at me when I say this, but it's only 8,000 people are here this year. Isn't that a ridiculous thing to say? It's only 8,000 people. But it is. There's normally 10 to 12. It's a much smaller event this year. There's a lot of spaces that aren't occupied by tents that would normally be in. There's really good reasons why many people shouldn't want to come to these lands right now.
Do you want to show them the type of knot that I use?
Yeah, so he is doing to attach his Hosen, or to attach his codpiece, he's doing what we refer to modernly as an arming knot. I've not found this knot particularly referred to in any way, but it's what you see in the portraits if you look in the depictions of men. So basically, you take your laces, you wrap them around, I wrap them around 2 fingers, and then you pull you pull it through like that, the laces through, so it knots on itself, but it's a quick release knot, right? It comes right undone really quickly. So we call this an arming knot. It's used for attaching harness to your doublet, to your farsetto, to your pourpoint, but it's also used for attaching hosen to the farsetti. Yeah. Let me see. I think I would prefer the peasanty version anyway. The peasanty version is this. Okay, everyone. In the 15th century, everyone was basically wearing the same layers.
I think they mean the underwear.
Oh, the underwear you mean? Oh, I'm sorry. Mizzy B me. Did you mean the underwear or did you mean the clothing in general? Because let me be clear that peasants, which were just farmers and they could actually be rich in the 15th century, peasants, everyone is wearing the same layers. They're wearing breeches, they're wearing an undershirt, they're wearing hosen, and they're wearing a doublet, and they're wearing something over their doublet. So it's all the same layers. The only thing that differentiates them is how much fabric goes into each layer, the kinds of fabrics, and the decoration, the details, right? The materials are what differentiate, but the silhouettes aren't really that different. Yeah, and the base layers are definitely not. What were the Russians wearing then? Was it influenced by both European and Asian clothing styles? Yes. Russia in this era, Rus in this era, is very much a combination of East meets West. Even if you look at portraits of the King of Hungary, the King of Poland, the despot in the Balkans, the despot of Bulgaria, as they were called, you're going to see that they've got like this, it looks like a kaftan and a doublet had a baby. So yes, it's different. It's definitely not the same, but the layers seem to be the same anyway. Not necessarily the shape. Let me see. I wish there were events to learn that kind of stuff here. Oh, thank you. This is the best channel I found at nearly 3 a.m. Well, thank you, Nexa. Where are you? There might actually be groups like this where you are. Honestly, we're kind of a worldwide phenomenon.
If we know where you're at, we can probably find you a group.
So here's a good question. I wonder how long it took to relieve themselves after all that. Well, that is a valid question, isn't it, Handsome?
Yes, it is.
So people who have actually spent entire summers living this way have found out, literally, what immersive 100% on a farm from 1490. They have discovered that they literally have to train their bodies to only need to relieve themselves in the morning before dressing or at night after dressing. And they figured out that eventually you just develop that rhythm. The exceptions being, of course, when you're ill, but if you're ill, you're probably not out working. You're probably abed in the Middle Ages. But your comment about relieving yourself, Handsome? You were about to say something.
Oh, no. You can still relieve the front area while fully kitted out.
Yes. So the relief of excess water is not a problem for men in this ensemble. It would be the relief of other more substantial material that is problematic. But again, like I said, it seems that men simply developed a rhythm, but also remember that you don't live alone in this era. So you're never going to find yourself completely alone and isolated without someone to help you with the ties of your hosen and your farsetto and your doublet.
Okay, so I've got the pants on. I've put the farsetto on.
Let me see. In the movies, we see a V-neck tunic with a string close it. Is that a real thing? Captain roll, it depends on your era, right? A V-neck with a string. So yes, so in the 15th century, there seem to be 3 or 4 types of linen undershirts, and one of them has an opening and there's a string to close it here, but it's strings tied to a shaped neckline, so it's not a drawstring, right? I don't really have evidence of drawstring necklines, undergarments for men or women before, not like the peasant blouse, before the 17th century, I don't think. It's all fitted and pleated. There are ties to close the opening, but it's not a drawstring. Yeah. Isn't clothing for women more uncomfortable from that era? No. I actually prefer my 15th century clothing. I find it very comfortable, perfectly fitted. It's supportive. I love it.
She goes hiking in it.
I go hiking. I've gone hiking in this. I've walked dozens of miles in this exact outfit. I cook, I dance, I run. I've done kickboxing in this dress. So amusingly, yeah.
Up a little bit late. She's in the middle of her kickboxing routine. Like, huh?
Yeah, there it is. Once I get dressed, and if I do a live stream in the morning and I get dressed like this is how I stay. I don't change clothes. I don't feel like it. Question is, did you both make these outfits or bought them? No, everything I own is made by me, and sometimes with the assistance of my condottiero. So and most of it is also hand sewn instead of machine sewn. So not just the top stitching, but the inside seams.
Done all the ones that I can do myself.
Okay, so now let's talk about the doublet. So I didn't realize you were at this stage. Okay, so now this is the farsetto. It's called a doublet in English, or a doubletus in Latin from the 15th century. A pourpoint, or a doublet in French. And pourpoint means, for pointing. So it literally means it's the thing to which other things are pointed, are attached. So it supports the hosen in this case. And the hosen in this style, we have sets of holes all the way around that match with the holes of the hosen. But we also know from the extant farsetto of Diego di Cavaniglia that often they would really have multiple sets of holes, so that if your hosen had a different alignment of holes, it didn't matter. And sometimes at different levels in the case of the farsetto of Diego di Cavaniglia. So yeah, very flexible. In this case, we lazed out and just put one set of holes to exactly match the holes in his hosen. But if I want to take it to the next level, if we make a different pair of hosen with different holes, then I would just add more holes in to the skirt here. Yeah. Does he have armor? He does. He does have armor, and we do have an arming farsetto, and the armor does point to it. Okay, so now I'm going to take this is the point where you would have either a manservant do this, or maybe your brother or your father or a male relative, or your lady, if that's all you have, your lady wife, if that's who's available. But as a condottiero of means, he should really have a manservant. Unfortunately, we weren't able to bring any of our manservants. So the points come up. So starts here in the hosen, and it actually gets laced in from the back. Here, come closer. It actually gets laced in from the back, so the points are pointing out from the inside out. And then we poke it up through the holes here, and now we do what's called an arming knot. And I demonstrated that arming knot earlier, and then we just repeat that going around. Now I'm going to tell you that we specifically unlaced this for you so you could see this process, but my condottiero is fairly lazy.
Very lazy.
He's very slothful, and since we don't have a manservant, he generally literally just strips out of this thing like a big onesie. Yeah, and just unlaces the front and leaves the hosen attached to the doublet. That is certainly not the prescribed method by John Russell when he's instructing the manservant how to be the best manservant. Oh, I missed a set of holes. But that is how, for those of you looking for a more practical way to wear your 15th century, unless you need to actually launder the layers, you can leave them together. Now, if you launder them, you'll need to separate them. This red bleeds really badly. Word to the wise, never wash your reds with any other color that could take on color, because then the other color will be that color plus red. So, okay.
So now?
Okay, so now we're doing the front. So, no, one up.
One up?
Yeah.
I always choose the wrong one.
You do. You should start above the waist. So this was actually designed originally for parallel lacing, but we've decided to go with actually spiral lacing to seal it up shut. So spiral lacing is where you start at the bottom and then you literally spiral. We actually need to go back and add more holes, so don't look too closely here. There should be a lot more holes here. Someone needed to do that this summer and he kind of got distracted.
As we said, I'm lazy.
Yeah, he's lazy. It's all good.
I'd be an expert in lazy, but that's a lot of effort.
So question, aren't all those holes, laces, and buttons fragile? No.
No.
So the laces are super strong. These laces can take a lot of weight, The laces I have, they don't actually tear or snap under weight. They just eventually wear out from use, from wear and tear, but they can take a massive amount of weight. Now, the holes, so where did we put my dearest Tedra, could you fetch one of the knife sets, please? So the holes are not, so you can make weak holes and they will tear. These holes, however, I have a tutorial on this channel, by the way, on how to do, thank you, my dearest, on how to do proper lace holes. So proper lace holes are made with this wicked looking thing. It's the medieval multi-tool. It's useful for so many things, among them poking holes in fabric for lacing. So you poke a hole in the fabric, you don't cut a hole in the fabric. And then all of the threads are preserved. Then when it opens up, you have this ring of the fibers of the fabric itself. And then you use a nice heavy silk thread to finish the hole off. And you end up with this really dense, strong point, actually, where the lace, through which the laces go.
So I hang my armor from holes like that. And instead of breaking the holes, it actually ripped out the entire fabric around the holes instead of the holes themselves.
Yeah. Gosh, you guys are asking so many great questions this morning. Is this the undergarments for armor or casual wear? This is not, this is a civilian garment. This is not an arming garment, but the arming garment would be basically the same, just be constructed, put together differently and more strongly and more.
We'll do arming tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, maybe we'll do. Yeah, we'll do the live stream armoring.
Battle.
Yeah, we'll show you the arming up tomorrow, and then we'll also tell you all the things that are wrong.
It'll have to be a little bit earlier because I have to be up there.
Oh, you missed the bottom hole. Right there. This one.
Oh, just one up.
Yes, literally, I said one up. Okay, so another question: did they have all those bright dyes for their clothes? Was it expensive and more white? So in Asia, in Korea, the poor people wore white things, but not in Europe, because even in Europe, woad grows everywhere. So even peasants and farmers, they could just go get some weeds and could dye their things if they wanted to. Yes, but dye stuffs were certainly more expensive, but we don't really, even peasants wore colors. So yes, there were more expensive dye stuffs and there were less expensive dye stuffs. Kermes red, that's the red of these Hosen. Kermes is a louse. It's an insect actually, and it's a little tiny thing like this. It grows on an oak tree in the Mediterranean. And Kermes red, it was extremely expensive. It was the ultimate luxury. And Kermes is the word from which the word crimson is derived. And so if you see men wearing red hosen and red hats, red garments, women as well, that is definitely expensive. So yeah, dye stuffs are expensive, but really even at the lower levels, you can get browns and blues and greens and yellows out of literally weeds that just grow everywhere in Europe. Yeah. Let's see, other question. Is his outfit comfortable as well? It seems men's outfit took longer to get into. Movies always make out corsets to take a long time to get into, but they didn't. Yeah, it's so true about corsets, right? Yeah, so, the pace of life in the 15th century is just slower. It just is. People take more time to do everything, and they understand that they're just not going to be able to get as much in a day as they might otherwise get. That is the reality of it. Yep. But is it comfortable? Yeah, so is it comfortable?
Oh, very.
Yeah, super comfortable.
It's not super hot, because again, little ice age is what this was intended for.
Okay, no, let me. So collar needs to be adjusted. Okay, so look at how messy this is. Okay, so if you look at how other gentlemen in this era are dressing,
looking at other gentlemen.
I'm always looking at other gentlemen. This is my job. So what I do, you don't just let this flop forward like that. That looks pretty crappy. So what I do is I take this and I fold it off to the side, fold it like that, and then fold it off to the side enough. This one unfortunately needs to actually lace all the way up and have buttons. But you can actually see, if you look closely at the portraits of gentlemen from this era, you'll actually see a fold there. So yeah, as I said, there were some mistakes were made.
Did you pull out?
No, not because it needs to be tied. It's loosening itself.
Oh, dang it.
Mistakes were made. And when you have excess lace, if you're doing spiral lacing, you just tuck it in. This is also a finger loop braided lace, so everything is finger loop braided here. Okay, so go and do a turnaround so they can see. Okay, front, back. And the nice thing about these big sleeves is that they allow you lots of mobility. Yeah. And there's some padding. There's batting added in here to add a little more dimension to the upper part of the sleeve. But honestly, the whole sleeve should be padded, but it's not. That's okay. So now this cuffs have a button.
Oh, right.
Right? So if you see the buttonhole. That's right. And then the button is a self-stuffed cloth button.
I think I made the buttons.
Yep.
For this one.
And then we make sure, of course, let me have your arm stand back.
Oh, okay. Guess I don't need to see the button. Everyone knows how a button works.
Yep. And the farsetto is designed so that it fits right over the cup of his elbow like this. So it's actually fitted there so that it doesn't tear out and actually allows, again, full mobility.
I can
Right.
rapier fight in this
Okay.
easily.
Now do a turnaround. As you see, the Hosen are a little saggy, not terribly, but they are a little saggy because all I need to do is put them in some water, agitate them, and they'll tighten right back up. So, yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about shoes. Let's see. So this is the kind of shoe that men and women basically were wearing in Italy. There's different kinds, but this is one of the kinds. It's what's called a turn shoe. See, it's completely flexible, and it's called that because it's actually made inside out, and then you turn it right side out so that the seams are then on the inside. Now, this does not provide you much protection from the ground, but they had different surfaces back then. To protect your feet, there are different options. I don't know where yours are, but mine are here. Well, whatever. To protect your feet, you would actually put these, they're called pattens. They're in English, they're called zoccoli. One of the things they're called is zoccoli in 15th century Italian. And, like, it's just leather. So some of these have been found extant. Some of these turn shoes from the 14th and 15th centuries have been found extant with bits of wool inside of them. So the theory is that they might have actually used felted wool inserts to add a little bit of padding. And lo, there is someone selling felted 100% wool. It's felted, so it's very dense, but it adds just a little bit of cushion into the shoe. And it also is antimicrobial, and it prevents smells from becoming overwhelming in the footwear. So that is this is the footwear he is putting on. There is also the option of what are called footed Hosen, by which I mean there's actually a leather sole sewn directly onto the bottom of the Hosen, and then when the men would go outside, they would just put on the zoccoli, those overshoes, basically. So there's two different options really for men, and actually the third option is footless Hosen, which is what he's wearing, but he shouldn't be. We just haven't gotten around to attaching the feet on this because he's lazy. Because time and he's lazy. So the Hosen are now on, and he is just putting on his shoes. As you see, the Hosen allow plenty of flexibility. It's not uncomfortable to sit down and bend over and put on his own shoes. Even though according to John Russell, there should be a manservant doing this, I'm not going to do that. He can do it for himself. Question. More questions? Let me just check in. Yes, Ava Orich, yeah, it's an awl. This pointy thing is an awl, but it's many things, right? It's an awl. It's useful for getting knots out. It's useful for cleaning things like under your nails, for instance. What else?
Holes in a variety of things.
Yeah, poking holes in leather. Yeah, we found lots of uses for this multi-tool. Not for eating. Not for eating, everyone.
I had to use it to make a lacing hole for a buckle hole for my shoes the other day.
Yeah, I had to poke it into a hole into some armor 2 days ago. William's harness needed an extra hole. Turn around. Okay, so the question was from Laurie, is the back of the falsetto shorter than the front? I have a hard time telling. So not technically, it isn't technically shorter, but because it's actually the measurements are the same. But on him, the front actually ends up being a little longer. But in fact, on Diego di Cavaniglia's, the front is a little longer than the back. And that could actually just be because of the natural musculature of the man-at-arms. And Diego di Cavaglia was super asymmetrical. His right side was crazy bigger than his left side because he was a man-at-arms. Yeah. Let me see. Wasn't gold also precious? Could he afford those rings from farming? He's not a farmer. This is a condottiero, guys. This is a well-heeled mercenary.
I make my money by
this is not a peasant. This is not a peasant. Let me be clear. Let me just get some more questions. Don't do that yet. What were the royal blues or purples made from? So blue can be achieved with woad. Is mostly achieved with woad in this era. Purple, if you're talking about royal purple, that's Tyrian purple, but that literally vanishes after 1204. Thank you, asshole Franks, for sacking Constantinople and literally killing the Tyrian purple production. So Tyrian purple, that comes from a snail called a murex, and that goes away. And Tyrian purple is actually like this amazing purple red. It's not just purple, it's not just red, it's a combination of the two. So blue, to get a really rich blue, you need a lot of woad. You need multiple over dyes, and you need the right mordant and the right additives to the dye bath to get it to be the right shade of blue. So that's how you achieve that wonderful blue. It is from woad, actually. Let me see. Hello from Romania. Welcome to my channel. I couldn't imagine how people from the past would feel if they could see how easy our clothes are to put on.
Yeah.
They might actually look at us literally and say, wow, they must be going to the executioner's block. Dressed like that. Yeah, wow. Okay, so many good questions. I'm sorry we're missing them because it's coming really fast. Okay, wow, so many. Wasn't purple derived from the indigo plant? Okay, so later on, after Tyrian purple goes away, you can achieve purple by an over dye. So you do blue first, you do a woad dye first, and then you over dye with madder, or for really rich purple, kermes, right? So madder is a weed. It's tall, it grows, it's got yellow flowers, yellow or white little flowers, and it's the root that you use. And the root is like orange red. It's kind of rust red. The root itself is actually red. And that's probably how they figured out, maybe we can use this to dye stuff red. And so for the lower level, for a less expensive purple, you could do woad in Europe, woad with madder. Indigo comes from India, and it doesn't get imported to Europe until the end of the 15th century. So until that point, it's woad and it's madder would be a less expensive purple. Woad and kermes would be the more expensive purple.
What's on your belt?
What's on my belt? Where?
It's just a pouch full of stuff.
Oh, my pouch, my aumonier. It's a pouch. It's an aumonier for keeping alms for the poor, right? I'm only wearing my underclothes, just so we're clear. I'm literally dressed for at home super casual because I'm helping him dress, and I'm not going to dress up to help him dress.
Thank you, Faraya.
Okay, yeah, matter for anyone. Thank you, for I appreciate that. Not matter, but madder, M-A-D-D-E-R. Good point. Yep. You guys do look tired as per the era. Oh,
I'm very tired.
I'm not, so thank you for that lovely not compliment. This is so cool. Where are you guys? We are currently at a fair called Penzic. It's an event hosted by the Society for Creative Anachronism in Western Pennsylvania, 2 weeks every time this year, basically. Yeah, this is just underclothes. Yeah, this is literally how people thought that this would kind of be considered naked if you read sources, literally for women. Okay, so now we are to the final, a final layer, a potentially final layer. There could be more, but we don't have more. So this is called a giornea. This is the front with the curved neckline, and this is the back with the V neckline. This is an unstructured giornea, so it doesn't have pleats built into it, and it's not padded. The extant one that belonged to Diego di Caviglia, which was discovered basically in 2002, and then was restored in 2012, that actually has padding, a layer of wool batting as a mixture of like wool and silk all throughout to actually give the giornea structure. This one, however, is an unstructured one, and Giuliano de' Medici has a fantastic portrait, the bad boy of the 15th century Florence. Well, he's not the bad boy. He's the flower of chivalry, 15th century Florence, but you could tell he broke hearts. He's depicted actually wearing an unstructured giornea very much like this. It just goes on over the head, as you just saw. You're jumping ahead before I can describe what you're doing. You wanted to show? Go ahead. It goes over the head, as you just saw, and then you can either wear it. So one option is to wear it with, let's show them without. You're just moving to the belt.
Okay, look.
Moving without the belt. So you can wear it just like this. Go ahead and do a spin. Right? You can wear it no belt. And this one I did not cut quite right, so it tends to ride down in the front. It was actually a tester. This was supposed to be a test 13 years ago, and it never got past the test phase. Life has been a roller coaster. I'll just put it that way.
But you can see as I belt it up how it starts to get those pleats just from me doing the belting.
Yeah. So now we're going to, now there's different styles. So unbelted, belted front, but not back, or belted front and back. You see all of those options. We really love the belted front because then you have the very sexy cape effect in the back.
I dance a lot, so you know.
You like to have swirl when you're dancing, you know.
What is this? Drip?
And yeah, and actually, he needs drip.
Is that what it is? The kids say they say
drip.
I don't know.
Okay, so now that it's on, we're going to just go ahead.
Don't ask us. Don't bring us into this
No,
conversation.
that's right, not our fault. So now we're just going to arrange the giornea under the belt. And you can see
You can see the nice pleats.
You can
down
see how
below.
even without any padding or any pleating or any tapes on the inside, another way to keep the pleats like holding but not being to get too stiff, there are actually tapes on at 2 levels of the giornea on the inside, one level here and one level here, to which the pleats would be affixed at very specific points so that it still has the flex of looking oh so natural, but actually in fact being artificially preserved. So, but this is the unstructured giornea belted. Okay, so do a spin so everyone can see without not clearing our table off, hopefully. You didn't clear the table. Okay, so we are not done yet. We are not done yet. This belt, it is leather with pewter, decorated with pewter castings. Right, these are all replicas of either portraits or actually extant bits found in the archaeological record. Now, pewter is actually, we do need to upgrade you. We need to upgrade you to an actual maybe gilt bronze belt. Because pewter is indeed the inexpensive material that basically everyone could afford in the Middle Ages, so we do need to upgrade him to bronze, or even gilt bronze would be the best probably. And this is leather. For really luxurious, it would be covered in silk velvet or brocade, silk brocade, or silk damask. Yeah. So this is definitely a more middle class option. We do need to upgrade him for certain. Okay, so now we actually should have done, ironically, we should have done the hair combing earlier.
No, I put stuff over. I did comb my hair earlier.
Oh yeah. So now we comb the hair. Of course, he has a condottiero cut, so his hair is short. But if he had fashionably long locks, like many men were wearing in this era, then it would take longer to comb his hair. Show me the pretty comb. Is the pretty comb in there?
I can't find it.
Open the box. I know, but hear me out.
I'm lazy, man.
It may have been put away or not. Okay, I don't know where the pretty comb went. We just got a new pretty comb, but I'll show you the medieval comb. Yeah, from Cosmetica Oscura. We did a tour of their shop yesterday. So here is the comb. This is actually a medieval comb, right? And it's a replica medieval comb, not an actual. I didn't buy this on eBay or something from a museum. So you have the bigger tines, which is used for getting knots out, and then the smaller tines are used for removing dust and detritus and oil from the hair. But also the reality is nits as well. Lice is a common issue in this era. Thankfully, none of us suffer from that. Although all of you who have 5-year-olds have probably suffered from that at some point when they brought it home from kindergarten. Did anyone in your family bring lice home?
I'm sorry, Mom. I believe it was actually in the Fosters. We had a lice problem.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. Yep. Can we crusade now? Yeah. No, crusading is generally bad. We shouldn't crusade anymore. We don't like crusading. Is the giornea something you would wear for fashion, or is it job related? It's a fashion layer. That's a very good question. The giornea is absolutely a fashion layer. But also it's a modesty layer. So almost until the end of the 15th century, in most places in Italy, if you're not wearing one of this sort of overlayer over top of your farsetto and your hosen, you're considered underdressed. You're either a peasant, you're a laborer doing their labor, or you're a giovani, a dissolute youth who's about to engage in some kind of stupid activity in the streets, right? It could be brawling, it could be the civettini, which is the silly slapping game, right? So to be properly dressed as a man, not even just a gentleman, pretty much at all levels of society, you should have on hosen, farsetto, and something over top of it, in this case a giornea. There are other options. There's a turco, which is kind of much more cloak-like. There is also the choppa, which has sleeves and is a much more complicated garment. So there's all kinds of layers, optional layers, but they're all fashion layers for certain. But also it's a modesty layer, especially before the hosen get joined. And modesty, not in the sense of they really cared about, there wasn't a moralization of it. It was a question of being properly dressed and being neat and tidy. Medieval people they found neatness and tidiness and cleanliness extremely important. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The myth of the dirty Middle Ages is just that, an extreme myth. Everywhere in Europe, by the way. It's just that different people had different ways of keeping clean. Showers were not a thing, but most places had public bathhouses. And some of them were very, very nice indeed, especially in Spain, the Iberian Peninsula. Constantinople had bathhouses that dated back to ancient Rome, and they were still in use when the Turks took over, and the Turks kept using them as well. So yeah, cleanliness, very important.
My patent's on.
Okay, let me see. The silly slapping game. I've never heard of this. Civettini. So Civettini. There's a desco del parto, a birth tray, which is not as horrifying as it sounds. It's not. Babies weren't born on trays, but it's a tray that was commissioned to mark the occasion of a successful birth, and they're beautiful and they're painted and they've been preserved and they're in art museums generally. You might look at it and think it's just a painting, but it's actually a tray, presented to the mother after successfully not dying and giving birth to a child. And this one desco del parto actually depicts these dissolute youth in Florence playing civettini, and basically it's three young men. They're in this line, and literally the one in the middle, his legs are splayed like this, and each of the ones on the end, one foot, they're stepping on one of his feet, the one that's closest to them, and they're literally trying to slap his hat off of his head, and then he's trying to slap their hats off of their heads. And so you see his hands up like this because he's trying to defend his hat from their slap, and they're going at him at the same time, I'm pretty certain. So it's we tried reconstructing this game once, and none of the women did. We watched the men reconstruct the game, and the next morning there were some black guys in camp. So we're not certain if that's a bug or a feature of the game.
It's a feature.
Sounds a lot like the game Ninja that we used to play in summer camp.
Which shows that people don't change. People don't change. Would it be considered the equivalent of a business suit? So Stefan, well, no, because it's just how people dress, whether for business or not. Yeah, so I don't know. It's not. So a business suit is like a uniform that makes everyone look the same in the office place. This is the opposite of that. No one should look the same. Everyone should have completely different clothes and be completely different. So no one should really look like each other. So maybe not. Maybe not.
Next layer is the hat.
Right.
We're running out of time.
Yes. Next layer is the hat. So this is what is called a berretta. And some people call it alla capitanesca but I've never found that reference actually in a source from the era, so I think it's a post-medieval reference. Because capitanesca is supposed to be a mercenary captain, because it's often mercenary captains you see wearing them earlier on, but as the 15th century wears on, everyone's depicted wearing them. So I don't think it was actually called a berretta alla capitanesca. There's another word I found for it, berretta alla... Gosh, I can't remember what it was. It was something disc. It implied that it was flat on the top, right? And it has a lovely little bit of bling on the top, a pendant that's just been pinned to it for extra style. So this is the whole outfit. Let's get you back so they can see everything. And he's put on his zoccoli as well, what we would call pattens in English. This is the entire ensemble. And it is quite comfortable. The farsetti can be made from fustian, which is a linen cotton blend. This one is fustian. It can be made from wool. It can be made from silk. Different grades of wool, different grades of silk for different levels. Silk velvet, silk brocade, you name it. There's certainly many more things we could say about that, but this is the whole outfit for the day. So, any final questions? Let me see. What kind of sumptuary laws would have been in Italy at this time? So Cornelia, the sumptuary laws varied from city to city because, of course,
and decade to decade.
Decade to decade, because Italy is not a monolith. But interestingly, the trend seems to be sumptuary laws, for those who don't know, are laws governing luxury, not just clothing, food as well. But clothing was definitely considered an item of sumptus, of luxury. So the sumptuary laws varied from city-state to city-state, but it seems that generally they're more concerned with regulating the women than the men. But some of the sumptuary laws were things like if you're of a certain status, you can only wear certain kinds of fabrics, silk, velvet, etc. In places like Florence, they were really concerned with people going way into debt to dress more exquisitely than they could actually afford. So they really were working hard for men and women to make sure they weren't spending ridiculous amounts of money. So they regulated how much embroidery you could have, how many rings you could wear on your fingers at one time, how many yards, how many meters, how many L's the hem of your garment could be, how long your train could be. It's pretty crazy. And of course, it was usually pay to play because it was a fine. And there were literally fashion police in Florence, like literally they would go around patrolling and they would find people whom they found violating the rules.
You.
Yeah.
What is that decorative scarf
And
for?
but sometimes there was one case I read about a woman literally, you know, telling the man that he had no authority, the policeman, that he had no authority over her, and basically, you know, tossing her head and just walking away, leaving him gaping because he couldn't, he was so intimidated by this powerful woman telling him no, that he didn't know what to do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So in 15 or 20 minutes at most, we will be doing earth and loom.
Loom, yes.
Earth and loom. So stay tuned
So
for that.
we're going to be going there's a great marketplace here with amazing artisans, and we're going to be going and talking to a couple of the artisans who make amazing replica items. We're going to be talking to a ceramics maker who has reproduced ancient Roman oil lamp chandeliers that turn your tent into daylight, or turn a room into daylight.
amazing.
They're so bright. And we're going to talk to her about her techniques. There's a knife maker up there who makes knives that will literally do surgery. So, you know, vivisection, here we come. And there's also a painter in that shop who does 15th and 16th century oil painting. And so she's going to show us her work and talk about the process. So in about 15 or 20 minutes, right here on this channel. Otherwise, I thank you all so much for being with us today. Please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to support my work in the way that my patrons and channel members have, and you'd like access to Discord conversations, extra materials, bonus footage galore, then please consider becoming a patron or a channel member. Otherwise, everyone, I will see you all hopefully in 15 to 20 minutes. Have a lovely day otherwise. Bye, everyone.